here to introduce the Virginia Patient Engagement Center to improve substance use treatment interventions. My name is Emily Zimmerman. I am sort of the lead investigator on this project. I'm a professor in the Department of Epidemiology here at VCU. The panel members' names are right there across there. We have lots of other panel members who are not presenting today, so I just want to give them the recognition that they deserve as well. Each of the panel members is going to introduce themselves.
Thank you so much, Emily. As I was saying, Amber Harris, I'm a person in long-term recovery from opiate use disorder, from significant trauma, and from mental health. And I was very interested to start on this project because we are researching to try to improve outcomes for substance use disorder. We have over 30 individuals on our panel in various stages of recovery, and we can all learn from each other. But for my family specifically, substance use disorder and mental health runs deep. Both of my parents suffered with it, and I lost my father to this disease. So outcomes are important to me, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I'll pass to Chris Packer.
Thank y'all for showing up. I'm Chris. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I normally just say I'm a person that used to smoke a lot of crack, and I don't no more. But
Closer here.
I tell you, I've been with this project since it started here. Myself and Amber, we, with the School of Public Health, we somewhat coordinate the panel, with connection and let folks know what's going on with the help of some others like Marva and a few other people that work here with us. But the thing about it that turns me on about what we do here is I've had a chance to use what I've adapted working in the peer field, from facilitating classes, one-on-ones, in-home recovery, everything I was able to be fortunate to run across. I've been able to utilize that in here. We got a great panel with seasoned individuals who's been working in recovery that I get to switch, share ideas with from time to time and collaborate on things with coming up with new ways to express recovery. And also we got individuals that's early in recovery that helps us with looking back at connection and helps us with the reasons why any of us, people like myself, we get better so we can help folk, you understand? And I'm just pleased to be here.
All right, good afternoon, evening. I get that mixed up a lot of times in the office, so I just want to say that real quick. So my name is William Pye. I am registered certified peer specialist for Henrico Area Mental Health and Development Services. And, some of the reasons I chose to be a part of the panel is to improve systems to engage and to bridge gaps and use my lived experience to create change and advocate and to reduce stigma.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Crystal Bennett Gertie, and I am a nationally registered peer employed with Henrico County Division of Fire and EMS. I am so delighted to be here today on this panel. So there's several reasons why I elected to join this panel. The first one being, if anyone is like I am, they love to give their unsolicited opinion and advice to other people. And I know I'm not the only one. I hear some chuckles, right? So I'm a part of a collective where I can boldly walk into a room and give those same thoughts, opinions, ideas, and share them with other people with confidence. And a lot of the, the researchers, they have vast amounts of knowledge and experience, but I still feel confident walking in, sharing those thoughts and ideas based on my lived experience and knowing that I'm a part of something bigger than myself, and that I am helping to affect change, impact those people who I have been committed to and gone on a mission to help based on what I've been through myself. I look at everyone here on the panel, and I get excited about the work that we're getting ready to do and the work that we're already doing, and the things that I've learned. So, I know the difference now between different types of research and quantitative and qualitative research. So I'm feeling like, I might have some alphabets behind my name, low key. And so in my shared experience, my lived experience, being able to share that vocally in a room where people actually listen. Today I am being heard. People are seeking me out to hear what I have to say in spaces where at one time no one wanted to hear what I had to say. So I'm super excited to be a part of something bigger than myself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Peggy Page. I am a peer recovery specialist at RBHA in the Rich Clinic. The Rich Clinic is an integrated recovery care, primary care. And I also work with the OBAT, the flow of the OBAT, medicated assisted treatment. I joined this project because as a person with lived experience, I wanted to bring in a little, reality, recovery, and a community connection. I was also appreciated the fact that we're all from different organizations and different pathways and different cultures. By me being a trainer, I always really like to recognize individuals' identities and different cultures. So that's why I joined this project.
Hello, my name is Jaden LeBlanc. I am a person in long-term recovery as well. I'm also a PRS. I am kind of in transition between what I'm doing at the moment. I've been leading a very small LGBTQIA-oriented recovery org that is being translated into a different local org to continue education and advocacy. I joined the Peer Recovery Collective because of my direct experience with that community to make sure that voice was being heard, and also because I'm a late diagnosed, very neurodivergent person. Crowds are not necessarily my thing, but I will show up and definitely do that for this. I do like bluntly giving my opinion as well, so that's cool. And I have a lot of experience. I have experience also with recovery housing, which is a big topic. I've seen all sides of it. I've seen what works and what doesn't, and I just wanted to bring those voices to the table here. So that's why I'm here.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to kick us off with a little background, but we're going to hear mostly from our panelists today. And I just want to say how proud I am to be up here with them, and you can see why. And just as a note, the title at the top, that's the official name of our project as far as the government is concerned. But they named themselves the Peer Recovery Collective and developed that beautiful logo. And just from the get-go, you can see that there was going to be something special happening. So just a little background on what this is all about. So this opportunity came about because it's pretty widely recognized that not enough people who have substance use disorder are getting the treatment that they need. And there's a lot of barriers that people experience to knowing about treatment, accessing treatment, completing treatment. And if we want to make a difference in how that happens and how often people get the care that they need, we really need to incorporate much more from the lived experience of people who have been there, who understand those barriers, and who have ideas about ways to fix them. So our project is set in the Richmond, Virginia metro area, so we have people from around the region. And again, our objectives are to address these large-scale systematic and practice-level barriers and create more tailored approaches to the unique needs of specific patient populations. We hope to develop a proof of concept that people with lived experience can have a real impact on developing interventions And we aim to kind of inform what that might look like. And ultimately, we hope that it results in improved treatment initiation and retention in treatment. The overall grant that covers this work has 3 aims. You don't have to read all these words, but it has 3 main aims. So the first one is really about the panel. So the first main aim was really to bring together this panel and to work together to build capacity, to create a certain level of comfort and motivation for doing this work, for finding ways to contribute their lived experience to the research process, to the intervention process. And in order to meet this aim, we brought this panel together. We have over 30 people in recovery. We meet bi-weekly, mostly by Zoom, but a couple times, like at least once a year, we all meet together face-to-face, and some folks get to meet together more often. And we've been working hard on capacity building activities, and we'll go over that a little bit more. And the second aim is to conduct some research on patients' experiences. So we have 2 projects in the works, and people on the panel are helping us to develop those projects as well. One of those will be a survey of people who are not yet in treatment or not yet in recovery. And we'll also be doing a series of arts-based workshops that will help us to better understand the people's experiences. And then the last part of this will be to bring together all the things we heard from the survey, from the workshops, from our panel, from the other stakeholders that we have a chance to bring together to develop and implement 2 pilot interventions. And again, this is really meant to, how do we fill the gaps? How do we provide services that aren't being provided or meet the needs of populations that are being left out? We don't know what those pilots will look like yet, so hopefully sometime in the near future, you might get an invitation from us to come help us figure that out. So this is just a little bit more on the capacity building work that we've been doing. And I just want to talk a little bit about capacity building. All of these folks already had lived experience, and they can already talk about that. So why spend all this time on capacity building? And I think they ask me that on a regular basis. Why are we spending all this time on it? And it's just because there's a lot that goes into treatment and research and interventions. And it's just a matter of equipping people with the words, the ideas, the background to show up into spaces and be able to say, I'm here to contribute and not be taken back by scientific jargon that they might hear or people's doubts about, what they can bring to the table. I don't have doubts about what they can bring to the table, but we can all use tools in our toolbox. So we've been covering so many things. We started with substance use disorder treatment and recovery topics. There's a long list of topics. I'm not going to read them all to you. But what we've been doing with those, sometimes we have guest speakers. Sometimes we have just discussions with our panel members. Sometimes our panel members lead the discussions. We do a lot of hands-on activities and that sort of thing to address each of these issues. And then when we finished that series, we started a research series. I think somebody mentioned qualitative and quantitative research, and yeah, that's a thing. We've been talking about all different kinds of research and what it's like and what it's trying to achieve and how it looks in the substance use treatment field. And then we're also going into sort of research and action, like what does it feel like to work on a research team, or what goes into a grant proposal, that sort of thing. And so the end goal for this panel, it's not the end goal, maybe it's the intermediate goal, is to develop a process, a consultation process, where they can meet researchers in a mutually beneficial way. So what would that look like? What kind of collaboration, consultation can they do? And I think that's just going to vary a lot based on the individuals who are involved, based on the researchers who are involved and their needs. But we need to make sure that there's some language and communication so that everybody can develop a way to work together. And actually, this project is not meant to help just in the Richmond area, but we're expected to work with potential research teams from all over the country. Thank you. So we're looking at all different ways that we might work with researchers, thinking about what people prefer to do, what their prior experience is, what their specific interests and where they lie, what the researchers need and want, all of that. So we're not trying to build a one-size-fits-all approach. So now we're going to move into our discussion. And our folks are going to pass the microphone around. And just, some of you already addressed this first question, so I'll put 2 questions up. You can talk about why you joined the project, if you haven't mentioned that already, and a little bit about what you do now and how it informs your lived experience. So obviously, if you've been in recovery a while, you've got a whole collection of experiences to bring to the table. But what you're doing now also matters. The expertise that you have and the way that you're using it in the community, because I know all these folks are really active using their expertise in the community right now. And I want everybody to hear about how that informs the lived experience that they can bring to the table.
I won't share too much. I already shared why I joined the project with a family history of substance use disorder, mental health, and trauma. But another reason, Jaden mentioned being diagnosed as neurodivergent later in life. That is also my story. Actually, I was just diagnosed this year, and I wonder, I cried when I got my diagnosis because I wonder how much suffering could have been avoided had I known that as a young child. But I work with the Division of Fire at Henrico County, and I interact with a lot of individuals that have recently overdosed. And I offer them hope. I offer a listening ear. If they're interested in any type of treatment, I'll do anything in my power to get them there. Someone I've been working close with checked into treatment this morning, and it just, it makes my whole week that someone at least has a shot of hope or at a chance of a different life. But I will also say I spoke some about my family history. I have 3 daughters, and for years there has just been a generational curse in my family, and I have finally broken that. But just because I don't struggle with substances does not mean life is perfect. It still shows up. Since January, I've lost my mom. I lost my pet that I had for over 10 years, and I got him in early recovery, and he literally saved my life. So just because we get clean and sober and do things differently, life doesn't stop, right? And sometimes seasons are hard. But with the connections I have to others and the responsibilities that I have, that keeps me motivated, right? Even when I want to isolate, knowing that I have different people depending on me makes me get up and do something different. And that's incredibly powerful. I think lived experience, period, is powerful because you can be around someone that is going through something similar as you, and you don't even have to say a word, and they can understand you. And there is so much comfort in that. Last thing, I don't want to take all the time. Twice in active addiction, I experienced some pretty significant stigma, one by a police officer and one by a nurse in a hospital, and I will never forget the way they made me feel. And I hope to never make anyone else feel like that. And the more we talk about it and discuss solutions, the more we can bring that stigma to light. So people don't have to feel like less than human because they're suffering.
All right, so I'm going to look at that second question as well as I understood it. I'm really glad y'all gave terms to these things, you know, like lived experience and peer recovery. With my situation, to be a little transparent, I'm an individual who society or whatever probably wouldn't have gave me much chance, you know, just from the things, the way I was living and the things I was practicing. But I ran into some people in this fellowship. It's not a formal fellowship, but it's a fellowship, and they give you a guide in it. But long story short, what I discovered in there about myself, I like serving people, you see. And with all the stuff I did down there on the other side to get connection, so I can get connections, I'm able to transmit it here. And it helps, it helps me with success in what I'm trying to do with connecting with people, because if I can't talk to you, if you can't talk to me, you'll never understand me, and we'll be, sounding like survey situations to try to take care of our mental situations. It's a beautiful thing, that they give us this title, this lived experience, because it's people's whose experience who's gave this no chance a chance. You understand? It just came from people's experience. It didn't come from no fancy hospital, no serious learning institution. It just came from people's experience, man. I'm glad y'all gave it a turn. Good deal.
For me, let's see. And like Amber said, I'm not going to take too much of the time. One, I think just being a part of the Henrico Empower Task Force and different parts of the agency comes together with community partners and focus on treating and preventing substance use. But what makes it impactful for me is as peers, we have a voice. We have a voice, and our leaders oftentimes lean to us for suggestions, and that's empowering for a peer. With Henrico Mental Health, we partner with the jails. We partner with the jails, and I co-facilitate the Men and Women Relapse Prevention Group. And I want to kind of touch bases on what Tavares was just talking about, because I was a participant in the Orbit and Rise program. And when I look at being in that setting, that was some of my most vulnerable times in my life. And sometimes it's challenging to see positive changes in individuals in that setting. So to be able to offer my experience and strength goes back to what we were saying. It offers that hope to individuals. And it bridges gaps. And it lets individuals know that just because we're incarcerated doesn't mean that defines who we are. And when I facilitate that group, it shows them that we can live a meaningful life outside incarceration. When I was incarcerated, I had this irrational thought in my head that this is going to be my life, incarcerations, using substances. So to be able to offer that experience to individuals and offer that hope is very, very huge. It's very, very huge. And a lot of times we have individuals that leave the program and transition into Henrico Area Mental Health and start receiving services. So we all know that change is scary, change is unknown, but it can happen.
When I think about the lived experience aspect of what I do, I work closely with Amber in the community, and because I've been impacted by justice-involved situation, I've been incarcerated probably in about every jail and prison here in Richmond, Virginia, and in federal prison outside of Virginia. And so I am fortunate today that in the work that I do, I'm able to be boots on the ground, and I'm able to go back into the jails, into the prisons. I just got clearance to go into the Department of Corrections to do a life skills curriculum for reentry, which is what my passion is, reentry. I definitely believe that when a person goes into incarceration, if they are not informed and they don't have the knowledge or the skills when they go in, if nothing is poured into them when their freedom is taken away, nothing is poured back into them when they get out, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to gravitate to what they know how to do best. And so I am a huge proponent of reentry programs and programming for those individuals incarcerated. And today I got one of the biggest surprises. It was a wonderful surprise, actually. There's quite a few people in this room who have poured into me. I never thought that many years ago that I would be sitting here on this panel, much less working and having a job with security clearance in Henrico County, and also be the founder or co-founder of 2 nonprofit organizations. But I got the opportunity to see someone who sparked this bug in me today, and she's sitting here today, and I hope she doesn't mind that I got the opportunity to tell her thank you. Her name is Linda. She was one of the persons who would come in from Narcotics Anonymous, and I would see her. She would come in. She'd be so fly, but none of that mattered because she brought her whole authentic self into persons who were feeling hopeless and defeated. And when am I going to get out? What am I going to do when I get out? And she brought her whole self, the program, hope. All of that into the prison system every week faithfully. I don't think she missed a day, and I was there for a long time, okay? And I don't think she missed a day, but I got the opportunity to thank her today. I saw her, and it really did something to me and for me. It was because it was that spark, when people see us as peers, and they know that we're not somebody in a uniform, that we are just exactly where you once, where you are now, we once were the same, and we're able to connect with them and to share our stories and our lived experience. And we don't share our story for entertainment. It's not about entertainment. It's not about who has the best story, who has the biggest story. It began the same and it ends the same. And for all of us that are up here on the panel, it did not end in death, because we know that that's a true part of it. And so, being able to do this, what I love to do, based off of what I've been through, and I can speak factually to what my lived experience is, because mine is not the same as yours. But when I get to do that every day, it's a part of my job, a mission and passion that I have for helping other people. And, we get an overdose list every week, and I just pray every day that there's nobody on there that I see. But when I know and can recognize there's nobody on it that I know, and even if I don't know them, I still have the ability to go out and help that person. And so for me, it's helping a stranger, it's helping somebody that I know, because I was once that person.
I share my lived experience through multiple ways. I share through education and trainings. Education and training helped me a lot. I came into recovery through justice, jails and institutions. That's how I got into recovery. That's why I found recovery. And so I work in a clinic now, but that was where I was. And with me coming through, sitting in the seats and facilitating trainings in the jail, I worked at the VA, Virginia Peninsula Regional Jail, was my first when I became a peer specialist. So when I got there, I really didn't know. I was asked to speak. I don't speak a lot, but I can train, really train, because I have a whole lot of individuals in here that I have trained, and I'm real proud of y'all. But when I came in, I was kind of like, I don't know about this, because it was a jail and I had been incarcerated so many times back and forth. I was like, am I going to leave here or whatever? And so when I got there, it was a group of women, and they had never had a program. They didn't even know what recovery was. And so I I felt like, you know, when we introduced each other, when I introduced myself and they introduced, and I told them that I was a person in recovery and I was a person that used, I was homeless, I've been incarcerated, and they, you know, they would see me in the hall and they were like, really? And nobody wanted to join this program before I got there. And my supervisor said, well, if you don't like it, you know, you don't have to stay or whatever, but I was right where I was supposed to be. You know, I was sitting in those same seats that they were sitting in, and that's where I found my purpose, right there at Virginia Peninsula Regional Jail. And so I share my experience in different ways through my pathway, which is Narcotics Anonymous. And with different, as I train, I continually share my experience. When I got in recovery, I've been clean, but when I got in recovery, when I really knew what recovery was, I was 60 years old. So y'all do the math. I have 9 years in recovery now, you know? And so it's a difference between treatment, being in recovery, and just being clean, you know? And I am in recovery.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
So I've actually been sitting here debating what exactly I want to share with y'all. There's a couple things. The first big part of the easier part of my lived experience is the late diagnosed neurodivergence. And when I realized what was going on with me, it was also a game changer for me. Like, suddenly so many things about like the recovery process made sense. Now, I have worked with people in recovery housing. I have worked specifically with the trans community in recovery housing, so I have a lot of experience with that. And I can tell you that I cannot tell you one person who came into the house that was not either autistic or had ADHD. I cannot tell you one person. So I suspect that the prevalence in the recovery community is extremely high, and it's not addressed. I've done a lot of education and advocacy around LGBTQIA topics and neurodivergence topics through like online workshops and stuff like that, and with other recovery housing operators. I no longer operate a recovery house. That's another whole topic of lived experience of, you know, what happens when there's not support on that end as well, and when their mental health starts tanking as well because of the nature of the work. A lot of people don't talk about that either. So I have a whole lot of experience that people don't talk about, that, you know, I'm happy to talk about. It's a long story, but basically, you know, I was part of an original org that wanted to do trans recovery housing. The person who was doing that did not make it. I'm not going to share that story here. I will share that one-on-one if anyone really wants to know, but that was very heartbreaking. And so I stepped in out of necessity to keep that going, really, because like I said, I'm more of a behind-the-scenes type of person. So I am now going back behind the scenes to help advocate with all of that, everything that I experienced, you know, in terms of either side of recovery housing, the good, bad, and the ugly, because I've seen it all. And also for, you know, trans people in recovery and neurodivergent people in recovery, because it seems like, I guess there's a lot of people on the margins, you know, in the experience that I have. And it's interesting because I had a house that was set up, and I went to other orgs and said, can you take over this house? And they said no. And, you know, I know there's like, you got to follow your working plan, but the point is, I've realized that there's a lot of individuals or very small groups trying to serve the people who are around the margins like that, like I was trying to do, and you burn out, and it just starts becoming impossible. So I don't know what the entire solution to that is, but that's another thing that I like to try to bring to the conversation and the table, to be able to make sure the people around the margins are getting access to all the recovery.
So as we continue with this discussion, I want you to think just really hard, if you were planning a program, developing an intervention, creating a research project, why would you not want someone at the table who knows what it's like to be incarcerated, who knows what it's like to return to the community, who's experienced healthcare stigma, who's there on the front lines to help people who've hit rock bottom, who knows what it's like to be neurodivergent in these spaces? I mean, in what scenario would you say, I don't need to hear that? Is that going to help your program or your research by shutting those voices out? So that's what I want you to think about as we continue this discussion. So this might be a hard one, and answer this one if you have some thoughts about it. But what types of projects might you want to consult or collaborate on? So somebody's coming to you, they've got an idea, and you're thinking, wow, that really fits with me. What would you want to do?
I can answer
Go ahead, Peggy.
that one. Okay, so I'm interested in reentry and justice-involved projects, as well as homelessness, because I believe that they go hand in hand together. And it's like I've experienced that situation when you're justice involved. It sets, it's prevalent for being homeless because you're in and out. And then when you first come home, it's like you may go to a recovery house, and you may not. You may have to go back home. It's just a whole lot of different obstacles and barriers. And so I'm really interested in that. It's basically interconnecting. I would like to, do some type of project where this interconnection, because they go hand in hand, basically. So that's something that I would like to be a part of.
Awesome. Thank you, Peggy. I am interested in women and children. When you're looking for treatment, there's a lot of treatment for men. When you need treatment for women or housing for women, it becomes more difficult to find. And then if that woman is a mother, it's almost impossible. If she needs to keep her children with her, good luck. It's not going to happen. And I know as a mother, I was not afforded the opportunity to just go away to treatment and tell my kids good luck. I had to arrange all of that. And that is a lot. And when you are the breadwinner for your family and you have kids depending on you, it makes for a pretty impossible situation. So I am really interested in helping women and children. And in the last year, I've been trained in sex and human trafficking. And that really interests me because the intersection of that with substance use is huge.
I always share a story about when I was in Henrico jail. I think I would like to look at the impact of peer recovery programs in correctional facilities. And that was very, very powerful. And it also, the relapse eliminated one less barrier that I had after a year of when someone being released from incarceration. I always share a story about when I was in Henrico jail. Ran fatherhood I was fortunate to take ASAP in the jail because that was very, very powerful. And once I stopped using it, also that means, hey, I eliminated one less barrier that I had to face when I got back out into the community. So having these I also believe that classes, life skills, peer-ran fatherhood programs, just like Amber was saying about on the outside, parenting programs, because it was still I have 5 kids. And once I stopped using the substance, that means I have to be a father. I have to be a parent. I didn't know how to be a parent. Once I got that ASAP, I was like, man, I can do it. So having these peer-ran parenting classes, and again, life skills, what I do. Because this function that I left on the outside, once I got incarcerated, it was still out there waiting on me. So just to help me, empower me, right? Because once I got my, and Miss Morton to tell you, once I got that ASAP, I was like, man, I can do things. It was that hope. It was that hope. And again, then what I do, right? That motivation, we have that window. The motivation comes and motivation goes. So I was motivated to take my behind down to DMV and say, hey, let me get a letter of compliance. Let me follow this. Let me do this.
Okay, so whoever wants to jump in here, our next question is, what are some things that has surfaced as important during our panel discussions? I did mention we meet every other week. We have lots of talks and lots of discussions, and we try to identify important issues. So I'm wondering, what do you all think are some things that have surfaced?
I'll go on that one real quick. So they're smiling at me because, okay, so back to the neurodivergence piece. I bring it up a lot during panel discussions of, different ways of processing information or looking at things, or, like how, someone who is neurodivergent might interpret a survey, or deal with like an arts workshop, for example. And I'm constantly saying, hey, some, like, for example, in an arts workshop, like someone who is ADHD is going to respond differently than, someone who is very sensory sensitive with autism. And some of us have like the fun combination as well, right? So like, yes, I see some of you shaking your heads. So that comes up a lot for me. And then I also do, bring up LGBTQIA topics at times, just some reminders, with lived experience around, like, trans people, for example, like when we're talking about parents, because there are trans parents as well. So things of that nature. And then I will say we did a session on mothers in recovery, which was not my forte. Again, I said, parents in recovery, because some people can give birth that, don't identify a certain way. But I didn't know a lot about that subject. So it's been very interesting hearing about all the discussions and then bringing some of those little pieces into those discussions.
Well, I tell you, with that question, Emily, what has came out with my influence, what I've been around here on this panel, I was already looking at it, but it seems to be a housing problem that's it's been connected, and it's been mixed in with it. Now, that's the biggest thing. Solution I don't really have, but I tell you something that kind of goes back to the first. I didn't want to get out of it without mentioning it. Something else that's came out of this program. It's kind of spawned a workshop. It's an art way of looking at art, using art to develop connection. You see, and I got brightened up by this idea right out of these members on the panel. There's a gentleman named James, Michael. I think actually they're here, and I could see where that could go with helping me with connection. Because everybody don't want to do NA, everybody don't want to do AA, everybody don't want to do whatever. Maybe some people want to play with some pencils. I don't know, but I really, really was impressed.
One of the topics that stood out for me the most was the barriers to treatment. And so I guess I'm going to be the bad guy in the room. I'm just going to spit it out. So when we talk about the harm that some of these recovery houses are doing to the patients and clients that enter into them, and it's not all about the insurance not being the culprit. And we all know what it takes to get into recovery. We see a lot of people down in the jail who, if they haven't used in 7 days, they've been locked up for maybe 2 weeks to 30 days. But if they haven't used in 7 days, a lot of programs won't allow them to come in because the insurance won't cover it. And so, why and how do you tell a person that they're not eligible for treatment or going into a recovery house based on what the insurance is saying? And then also when they get to these recovery houses, they're expected to, after 30 days, find a job. If they don't have any life skill building or any re-entry skill training before they get out, and then you give them 30 days to find a job so that they can pay house rent. This is a lot of undue pressure on people in early recovery. And so I think that a lot of, protocol stability, whatever label you want to put on it, that there be some type of regulation, some type of oversight, better than what we have in place now, because a lot of people are being harmed when they're released from recovery houses and they're just being sent out. They don't have anywhere to go. And so then a lot of the barriers, like I said, to treatment include the recovery houses, but also the insurance.
So this is a tough question. I don't know. We're all ready for this one. No. We actually spent a bunch of our meetings learning about and practicing storytelling, because as you have heard, all of our panel members have a story to tell. But the big question is, how do you share that in different contexts? How do you share that in a professional context where you're meeting maybe your research team for the first time, or a clinical team for the first time, and they don't know what this is all about? So my question is, how can you share your experiences in different ways, and what do you think that might look like?
Let's see. The addiction photo series, to where I can capture before I was in recovery, when I was in active addiction. I'm sorry, let me say that back. When I wasn't in active addiction, to when I started using substances, and to where recovery started. And it reminded me of the DBDHS Revive video. That's tongue twisted right now, so we know it's late. We know it's late right now. Tongue twisters. Can y'all say that 4 times? But the Revive video, the nugget, the kiwi bird, y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, so that reminded me of that, to where that kiwi bird was going to get the nugget, and it shows the cycle of addiction, 3-minute video with no words. So it reminded me of that, to be able to utilize that to share my story.
One of my biggest champions for recovery, sobriety, and all things, get your life right, Crystal. I'm sitting on the front row is my daughter, Kalia. And she used, my story was used without me being there. Her 12th grade, her senior project, where she went to collegiate, and they have to do a project, a special project every year. My family and my girls in particular, we are huge Michael Jackson fans. And so her project was about how my addiction affected her and how she used the songs of Michael Jackson to cope with my addiction. It was so powerful, and I didn't realize that she was no longer embarrassed by me, and that she did consider me not only her mom, but her parent, but how what she experienced in a school like collegiate, she was able to share her experience with confidence. And at the end of her telling of this and viewing of the other kids in the class, calls started coming in, texts about other kids who had been experiencing the same thing in silence and in the dark. So I know how powerful it can be, especially when it's unexpected. And you're talking to a group of people who you think kind of sweep things under the rug, and all they need is one person to say something, and then that will spark them or encourage them to say something. So I will forever be grateful that that she was able to do that, because it motivated and encouraged me to tell mine with confidence to anybody that will listen. I know what to share in certain rooms. Now, I'm not going to go to the county manager's meeting at our Empire Task Force and tell them that I've been to all these places, all these prisons, but I will share those things that are relevant. However, whatever part that I share, my hope is that it will be impactful.
Now, I would like to ask if there are any researchers or people who've worked on any kind of research here, if you could raise your hands. Okay, we got some. Good, because I got questions for you. So, two questions. You could answer whichever you like if you're willing. How have you engaged people with lived experience on projects in the past? And or how would you want to engage people with lived experience on your research or intervention development, so maybe in the future?
So I'm actually an undergrad student. This is my first conference ever. And I did a poster presentation earlier. None of my colleagues are with me. They went to the well-being panel because none of them have lived experience. And I told them, I want to go to this panel because, you know, this is, I've never encountered a space of any kind where this is open like this. This is very, very new to me. I'm a rising senior this year in undergrad, so I'm hoping to go to a PhD and do research in psychology and neurobiology, things like that. But we've been studying a family history protocol for alcohol substance use disorder on campuses to try to like act as a prevention effort. But in doing that this whole semester, we have been talking about preventing things in the future. And I have been on the team as the one person who has lived it and has it in the past. Both myself and my whole family, honestly. I think, like, even just having 6 people sitting in front of me that are able to tell me, like, I've recovered and I'm here and I'm doing research and I'm, you know, like, you are all contributing something. You're contributing something to me. And, like, knowing that I will get to be the next person to continue that on, like, because I'm a little younger maybe. But yeah, I think having even just a room where this is open, this is talked about, this is not shameful, like, you've lived it and it's something that we're proud of as people instead of something that we're ashamed of and not, you know, reaching back down. It drives me insane sometimes. I see people that make it out and they don't reach back down. They're like, I did it, I have to stand on top of what I've, like, gotten for myself, and it drives me up a wall. I'm like, I can't imagine, like, not, like, I wouldn't have made it out without someone reaching down for me. So why wouldn't I not want to do that? And I think that to have any impact on people, being a researcher or being and contributing to this field in any way, having a lived experience, I think it's just telling the experience. I think knowing that. I remember being in, like, 4th grade and telling someone that my dad drank too much and that was why I had to leave school for a little while because he went to rehab. And I got in trouble because you can't talk about alcohol in elementary school. That's, you know, awful. And, you know, so just genuinely thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are really inspiring and I'm so glad I came to this.
Hey y'all, I'm James. You all know me. But yeah, so I was like an early adopter maybe of the Peer Recovery Collective. I work at BC's Institute for Drug and Alcohol Studies, and we are on a really cool project focusing on pregnant and postpartum patients with substance use disorders. And so I was lucky that I had a connection to the Peer Recovery Collective and was able to talk to a number of people on the panel who were able to, like, view the project that we were creating in the development stage. And they gave really, really important critical feedback to the intervention before it was too far gone. So I'm incredibly grateful to you all for everything that you do and for your commitment to this project because it allows me to do a better job. And I am really proud to call you all, like, co-workers and, like, co-designers of the research that we do. And the other thing that I'll mention is, you know, I think it's really important to hire people in recovery to work in addiction research, right? So I'm, like, very, very grateful. I am in recovery myself. I've been working as the community engagement manager. I'm also very grateful to Emily for giving me a job on the Peer Recovery Collective when I entered school. So I think that's, like, undervalued, is making sure that we are honoring people and considering them part of the research team when we're doing research. So That's it. Thanks.
This is a comment. This is not a question.
It's not a question. Bravo. It's an honor to work with y'all every other week on various projects. I appreciate y'all. How would you want to engage with people with lived experience on your research or intervention development? Pay them. You know, this is something that we talk about all the time in the peer collective. Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I work with these people, so these are conversations that we keep refining. Don't ask people with lived experience for any feedback, critique, advice, input without paying them. Compensation. Don't give people bags of potato chips, and bring those too. But when you do point in time surveys and when you're out in the community, in blighted areas, in areas that have not been served, purposely ignored. Don't go asking people, what are your thoughts about this? Pay people. If any type of task force or committee or board exists and the subject matter is not present, you're doing it wrong. And so these are the discussions that we have within the peer collective. I'm super proud of everybody on the panel. Thank you for all that you do, but pay people. Pay people.